progressive discipline history or disciplinary standards for Chief Slavin and the comment that he made, or two comments?
No, because the information that was provided to me showed that prior employees who made inappropriate or unprofessional comments, like along the lines of what Slavin did, they received counseling.
And some of the information provided to you showed that those employees who made inappropriate comments or off-the-cuff statements were making pejorative statements, for lack of a better word, against someone of a protected class based on gender or otherwise.
Yes.
And even when those one-time off-the-cuff statements or single incident statements or unprofessional behavior toward a member of a protected class involving comments regarding that person's status in the protected class, that still received verbal counseling or discipline consistent with the progressive discipline using.
It was consistent discipline, and I would call it low-level discipline.
You also reviewed the disciplinary history for the collective violations that we've been referring to as an integrity violation. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay. And you reviewed all of the city's policies regarding integrity of officers. Is that right?
Yes. That they were able to give me based on the retention schedule.
Okay. And my question was just, you reviewed the actual policies themselves, the general orders?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes. In fact, I think even attached one to as part of my investigation.
Okay. And when you're referring to retention schedules, just to clear up any confusion, the Peace Officer Bill of Rights does not allow police departments to keep records of internal affairs investigations over 7 years old. Is that your understanding?
I thought it was a time frame set by the state of Arizona and their retention, but maybe it is in the Bill of Rights.
Well, when I say Peace Officer Bill of Rights, that's a series of Arizona statutes.
Okay, all right, so yes.
Okay, so bottom line is, we couldn't give you any more because by law, we're not allowed to keep them.
Right, I think you went back to fall of 2014.
Okay. And Sergeant Goldhart testified yesterday that he at least searched the system as far back as 20 years, but what we got is what we got.
Right.
Did you find in your review of the historical discipline for an integrity violation that the city has a consistent disciplinary standard for that?
Well, insofar as dealing with law enforcement, their standard is, based on my experience, is very consistent with what other law enforcement agencies do. Integrity violations are taken very seriously. And if you are found to be dishonest during an internal affairs investigation, I've never seen it not result in termination, and that certainly is the case with Scottsdale.
I'll ask you, I'm not sure. Are you familiar with a case where a Scottsdale officer told his supervisor that he had spilled soda on his radio? Or I'm sorry, that his radio was broken and he didn't know why, but actually he spilled soda on it and it broke and that officer was terminated?
If it's in that January letter, then yes, I am. I just am not recalling those
Okay.
facts.
And then I'll ask you for this. One of the other things that you reviewed was the internal affairs investigation itself and the investigatory process. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were asked to look at and give information about how internal affairs worked with HR inside the police department for AR 333 violations. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And generally, what was your understanding of the routine practice of the department with respect to keeping HR informed of these violations?
And actually it came from, I believe Lewis himself also said that whenever they're doing these investigations, they work very closely with HR. And I think there's an HR person actually in the police department that they work with, whose name escapes me at this point. And they keep them in the loop, and he said that this HR person reviews all of the draft of the internal affairs investigations, as I believe does the city attorney's office. So they appear to be very involved, and in fact, he even relayed that at one point, this is a while back, there was a representative from the HR department who actually did an investigation into an AR 333 violation. And I think sometimes even, and this goes back, sometimes an HR person did sit in on an AR 33 investigation.
Did you find that Chief Rockville or the department acted inappropriately by not providing a written or formal notice to HR regarding the AR 333 violations, either for Chief Slavin or anyone else?
No, because the impression I had was that they were aware of it. I mean, Lewis had kept them.
Did you see anything in your review consistent with the idea that Chief Slavin's comments or apology for those comments was something that the department was trying to hide or sweep under the rug before the IA was opened?
No.
There are some variations in internal affairs investigations based on how questions are worded from witness to witness or the order of interviews from investigation to investigation. And you were given information about those investigatory practices for both Slavin and Minor and for the historical reports that you reviewed. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Based on your review, did you find anything inappropriate about the investigation conducted by Sergeant Lewis or Sergeant Golahar for either the Slavin or Minor investigations?
No, I mean, the policy states that the investigator gets to set out the order of witnesses, and Lewis explained to me why he interviewed the witnesses the way he did with regard to 048. And as I said in my report, 048 was kind of triggered in not in an unusual way, in that Lewis really didn't know who the person was that was offended by the comments. So, because usually that's where you start, but as an investigator, and the policy with Scottsdale does allow for it as well, that he can choose who he wants to interview and in what order.
He can also choose the setting and location of the interview?
Yes.
Is he required to have an outline or some kind of pre-preparation before he speaks with an officer as a witness in an investigation?
No, it's not.
You were provided some information that Commander Minor has alleged that there was a racial bias against him.
Yes.
Is that one of the matters that you considered?
I did. Throughout this process, I did.
You looked throughout the entirety of the records for evidence of any racial bias against Commander Minor.
Right. And to be quite honest, I asked several witnesses, why do you think he answered the way he did on 048? And to this day, I'm going to be blunt, shocked that he was not more forthcoming in that interview. And I couldn't understand why somebody with his level of experience would be so evasive, given what I knew he had said to Pop and the length of the discussion he had had with Cronin. So I was trying to see if there was something else there that I just wasn't seeing to try and explain this conduct, and I found nothing.
Okay. Did you see something to explain his, let me ask you a foundational question. You saw that part of the sustained allegation against Commander Minor involves his conduct in his second IDA interview. Did you see that?
Well, to me, I guess how I saw it was he didn't clarify the integrity violation, which was what brought him to 085. So, insofar as his conduct in 085 resulted in him being terminated, I would say yes, it did, because he didn't clarify the prior issue that resulted in 085.
And there would be some motive for the conduct in 085, at least that we can determine, try to get off the hook.
Oh, you mean his answers?
Right.
Sure, I think he was trying to justify why he answered the way he did, but I don't think it didn't make any headway.
We've received a report from someone that Commander Minor asserts is an expert on IA practices, who has said that in testimony with you, that Chief Rockville used a racist word. So I'd like to ask you about that. Does that ring a bell with you?
That, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. When I interviewed him,
Right.
he used a racist word with me?
That's the allegation, and I can point you to, you have some notebooks in front of you,
Okay.
and you're gonna want notebook 2 of 2. Big City Exhibit. There's an exhibit that is just the transcripts.
Okay. In the notebook too?
Actually, I'm sorry, it's in notebook 1.
Okay.
It's exhibit 6. There are some page numbers
Okay.
at the bottom, and it's that first interview with, your first tab behind exhibit 6 is the transcript of your interviews with Chief Rockville.
Okay.
And it would be the second one in there. And it starts with page number 2585.
Back up a little bit. All right, so I'm familiar with this discussion.
Okay. And I'll direct you to, and just so everyone knows where I'm at, I'll read you a very brief snippet from this page.
Okay.
Starting on line 40. Answer.
Well, your page 25, 85, these lines are triple digits, you said like 40.
I said line 140.
Oh, 140, I'm sorry.
Well, okay, thank you, because I misunderstood that too.
My apologies. Toward the end of that line. Answer. And I guess I had my hopes that he would come to the conclusion that I came to, and the conversation would have gone a little different. But he simply said, nope, can't think of anything. Question. He didn't answer. It was pretty quick. It was, I can't think of anything. I mean, he wasn't uppity about it. Question. No. Answer. But it was, I can't think of anything. I mean, he was very professional, very pleasant. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Words have meanings, and meanings and connotations can change over time. Did you have any sense that throughout